Welcome to the Gabrielle Laura Show, a podcast created for the new and aspiring entrepreneur who's navigating the messy middle part of their entrepreneurial journey. I'm your host, Gabrielle. I'm a niche expert and a sales coach who helps coaches like you find your niche and sell in a way that's authentic to you so that you can have a thriving business. I'll be inviting entrepreneurs from all walks of life onto these episodes to share their story of how they went from an aspiring entrepreneur to a CEO and all the messy parts they navigated in between so that you do not feel alone on this journey. Sit back, relax, and stay a while because you are more than welcome here. Welcome back to another episode of the Gabrielle Laura Show. I should probably come up with a new intro because I feel like I say that every single time. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder if you guys are sick of me saying that every time. But anyways, welcome back. We're excited to have you here. And if you are new here, this podcast is all around normalizing the messy middle. And so I invite entrepreneurs on from all walks of life who are going to walk you through what they went through to really start their business. And it's interesting because I find like some people start all the way back from childhood. Some people just jump in with like when they were leaving their 9 to 5. So I hope you guys are enjoying these stories. And if you are, please leave us a review. It helps me so much continue to bring this free content to you guys that I love doing. But today we have Blaire on, my friend Blaire, and I invited her on to share her story with you. So I don't want to do too much of an introduction as I want to pass that off to Blaire to do for us. So Blaire, hello, welcome.
Well, hello.
Excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here and to chat.
Me too. So tell us your story. Like, what is Blaire's story? What messy middle did you navigate to get from where you were to where you are now?
It all started at childbirth. Just
Yes.
kidding. Everybody hit stop. No, I'm just teasing. I will fast forward a lot. And I think where I'm going to start out today, since you were like, start wherever you feel is right. I feel like
Yep.
it's kind of right to start. I'll speed this up a little, but my journey in New York City, I moved to New York City back when I was 20 years old, and I was fresh in the city, living that life. I knew nobody whenever I got there, but I had this passion and drive to go into the fashion industry, and I was an entrepreneur. So when I moved to New York, at this young age, I was just ready to meet friends and just get rocking and rolling and live this fashion dream that I idolized in my brain. And that's what I did at first. I started out at FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, and basically went to school for fashion merchandising and started out at Virginia Tech first, but realized quickly maybe I don't want to study fashion in Southern Virginia. Um, so I made the jump to New York finally after about a year and a half, and it was wonderful. Best decision of my life. I mentioned that I was an entrepreneur that at that time. I started my first business whenever I was 16, and I ran it for about 8 years, creating and selling handbags. Started it in high school, never got over it. I loved it so much, and I decided to pursue it as a career. And as every entrepreneur believes that their first idea is what they're going to stick with forever, that is not what happened, of course. And so I did that for 8 years, and I realized I couldn't scale making handbags out of my dorm room unless I had a manufacturing situation set up. And at that age, there's no chance that was going to happen. But New York is hard. It's exciting. People talk about it all the time, like, oh, like you won't last that long there. Oh, I don't know if you'll ever make it. I had so many people tell me that before I made the transition. And I was like, oh, you watch, but it was exciting. So about a year after being in New York, I hit some speed bumps along the way, as far as funding for school. And, it's expensive. And I guess, the after effects of 2008 crash affected me. And so I wasn't able to go back to school. I went to my actually, I'm on a bus from Maryland going to New York, I lived in the dorms at that time, and the school calls me and said, "Hey, by the way, your loans didn't go through for school. Sorry." And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, I've been in your office forever figuring this out. I don't know what you mean." They're like, "Well, you just don't have it, so you got to figure it out." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't have like a rich account to pull from for this." So I didn't know what to do. I spent the night in my dorm room that night, but then I had to pack up and move everything out myself that weekend. And I'm 20 years old, and it was pretty insane. So I had to figure it out quick. Um, I got some friends to help me move out, figure out a storage unit, and those friends didn't show up to help me move out of my dorm. And so I literally had to move everything out, move it into a storage unit, and I called this woman who I was a hostess at the time, and I said, "Hey, you said I could call anytime I need help. I need help." And so I lived in this woman's apartment in Queens for about 2 weeks, and then this other girl at my job called me and she said, "Hey, you know, I heard you need help and you need a place to stay. You can stay at my apartment for as long as you need." And I'm like, "This woman is literally an angel." I barely knew her. We worked switching shifts, so we only saw each other in passing. So I get to her apartment, and the girls at the apartment were all pretty broke as well, and like me. And she goes, "Oh, you can share my bed." I was like, "It's cool. I'll get an air mattress or something." She's like, "No, no, no." So I shared a bed with this stranger for like 2 months. God bless her soul. Um, but it was crazy because I was living this double life, and the whole reason why I didn't go back home at this point, because I have the best family in the world. Like, I could have easily gone home. They were begging me to come home, and I was like, "No, I want to make this work. I know I can make this work. It's just right now it's not gonna right now I'm having these moments, right?" And, so I was staying there, had my living out of my storage unit, and I was attending New York Fashion Week as a writer. So, I would be going to my storage unit, and I'd be shimmying into cocktail dresses and really fancy outfits. I'm, like, borderline homeless here, like, couch surfing, and I'm shimmying into cocktail dresses in my storage unit, like, hoping that the security can't see it on the cameras or something. They may have gotten a show, we don't know. But, and I was going to Fashion Week, which is, like, the fanciest event of them all. So, I was living this double life for sure, and the whole time I was trying to figure out how to go back to school, so that way, eventually I can continue this fashion career that I'm building. So, that happened for a while. Thankfully, I got a job and I got out of that situation. I pursued my fashion career for several years, and I worked in magazines, PR, marketing, branding. Um, I did all of that, and they were all fantastic jobs, loved them. But every time I sat down at one of those jobs, I realized, this is textbook dream. Like, I would have pinch me. This is so great. But at the end of the day, every time I sat at my desk, I thought I was taking 10 steps backwards and I couldn't figure out why. And it took enough time sitting and having that feeling that I said, "You know what? I really just need to start my own business." I think that's the only thing that's going to feel fulfilling for me as a person. And it just kept being a thought in my brain, and I realized that that's not normal. Most people want the 9 to 5 job, they love the security of it, and that is awesome. That is great for them. But if you're not wired that way, it just, attacks your brain, I think. And so, I eventually decided to make a plan, and I was like, "Okay." And by the way, at this point, I was out of the purse business. I was, this is years of being in corporate. My mom calls me one day and she knew how I was feeling and she said, "Hey, I've been looking on YouTube and there's this Amazon FBA. And I think we should look into this. It could be a cool opportunity for you and I to potentially start a business." And for anybody listening who doesn't know what Amazon FBA is, it's Amazon's fulfillment by Amazon because they're genius and they have a million components of their business, not just Prime. So, this Cliff's Notes edition is basically Amazon FBA is when you, the small business owner, is the middleman between your company, Amazon, and whatever manufacturing facility you're using. If it's in India and China, US, wherever, you have to figure out what product you're going to make, how to get it made over there, how to have it brought to the US or wherever you are via freight. And it's a lot. It is way more than that. Sounds way easier on YouTube, let me tell you. It was not that easy. So, my mom and I, our genius idea was to go into business together and sell unicorn party supplies because what else would I sell? We thought, "Hey, kids never goes out of style with kids. It's fun, it's doable." And after I feel like it took us a year to finally get that thing in Amazon's warehouses. It took forever. Um, I was working my full-time corporate job, and I was bartending on the weekends and picking up random side hustle gigs, um, but mostly corporate marketing and bartending. And then my mom had a job as well, and she was just, luckily, whenever I wasn't able to make the calls to Amazon to figure out how the heck this is gonna work, she was able to do it, so we kinda tag teamed it. But we got through it, we sold out of our product, it went well, but it wasn't profitable like they tell you it is on YouTube. And I mean, this is just me guessing, I think that in order to be very profitable on Amazon FBA, you probably need to dump tens of thousands of dollars into it. I'm sure that there's some hacks that you can't, but that's what I saw. So, we got out of that business, and then, again, I was still bartending all the time, working in corporate, and it was just a lot to balance both of them because New York City is a hard place to live, and, I wanted to be able to have fun on the weekends and travel and stuff, so I needed that little extra cash, so I was bartending, and, which was so much fun, by the way. Uh, but crazy hours when you're working at a bar in New York, the bars close at 4 a.m. sometimes. That's like
That's a nightmare. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. If I'm not in bed by 9, I'm, like, out.
Yeah, it's definitely, has a time and an age limit on it for sure. But I did
Yeah.
that for, like, 8 years bartending at that place, and a long time,
Wow.
but we didn't have a bar back, and if anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's somebody who's helping you prep and stock and clean and all that stuff. We didn't have one of those, and so I wouldn't actually get out of work sometimes until 6 a.m. And so
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
very, very long shifts. Fun, but, like, it wears on you, and then if you're doing that and a corporate job at the same time, and you have this feeling, "I need to be an entrepreneur, I don't know how or what I need to do to start a business," and you're trying everything and it's not working, it's very frustrating. So, anyway, I finally got to this point where I was like, "Okay," I actually, at one point even, I thought at this marketing job, I thought maybe I wanted to get out of it because I was like, "Am I just becoming boring at this job?" That was a thought that went through my head too. I was like, is this gonna be my boring life? Like, what am I turning into?" So, what did so
Wait,
at one point, I called up my friend and I was like, "Hey, The Bachelor is having auditions today. I feel like I'm boring right now. I need to audition. Like, well, maybe that'll spice it up. And if I quit my job, cool. I hate it anyway." So I literally like applied for The Bachelor. That was another little thing I threw out in the air. I was just like ready to get out, right? But I'm a Bachelor reject. I never made it on the show, so that's
oh, that's
it's
okay.
fine.
That's okay.
I'll
That was for the best. It
still
was
a
for the
Bachelor
best.
Nation fan, but didn't make it. So anyway, that was hilarious. And anyway, so basically I was figuring it out and I was applying for jobs at this point, ready to, maybe it's a different job I needed to get while I'm thinking maybe I could start something. I don't know. It's just a lot of turmoil in my brain. Like, what do I do? And since I always loved writing, I was looking up some writer jobs and I stumbled upon somebody on LinkedIn and she worked at, to me, a dream job. She worked at Condé Nast Traveler as a writer. And I was like, how did she get this job? I'm just curious. So I scroll through LinkedIn, I'm creeping on it. And she went to this American university in Paris for like a 3-week long program for creative nonfiction writing. And I thought, okay, I don't need a degree at this point, don't want one, I'm, like, already done. I got scarred, like, trying to get through that first one, and then this is doable. I was like, they have to speak English if it's an American university, right? And I've already done solo traveling before in Europe, so I can go there by myself and I'll be fine. And so I look it up. It looks affordable. I apply, and then I just tell my parents, I was like, hey, by the way, found this interesting course. I think I'm going to apply. And if I get in, I'm just going to quit my job and go. My parents were like, yeah, you should do that. That sounds cool. And I was like, cool, already applied. Like done. And then my best friend, later on, we were walking to brunch one day and Spice Girl tickets had gone on sale that day. I know this is like a weird roundabout story, but I'll get to the point.
I love this so much. I smell where it's going.
We're walking to brunch and I was like, the Spice Girl tickets went on sale today. I called my mom and I was like, am I crazy? Should I buy these tickets? And it's in the UK, so it's not like it's down the road. I was like, I think I should just buy the tickets and figure it out later, like how I'm going to get there. I was like, you understand me. Don't you think I should do it? And she goes, do you want to know what I got you for your birthday? And I was like, stop. And I like middle of New York crosswalk, I'm like cried on her shoulder, so happy. And so logically, it just made sense that since the Spice Girl concert ended in May, or was it the end of May? And then my course in Paris started in June or July. July. It was a 3-week course. It just made sense to quit my job and then just go to Europe. So I did that. And it was like the greatest decision of my life outside of moving to New York. It was amazing. But I came back. I did freelance writing, which didn't make as much money as I wanted it to. Went back to bartending full time because that was going to be my means of figuring it out, like the in between. And it was awesome. And so my friend reached out to me in February and she was like, "Hey, on Instagram, hey, what are you doing these days? I really need help with marketing at this new company I'm at in footwear. Would you be interested in doing that?" And I was like, honestly, like, am I cut out to be a consultant? And honestly, because I'd never done it before. And so I really wasn't sure, but I was like, I'm happy to meet up with the founder and talk to him about what you guys might need, maybe. So I did, and it worked out. It was my first consulting gig in February 2020, and it was great. Then the pandemic hit. Um, you know, you never expect that to hit, but I'm so thankful that I was able to lock in that deal before it happened, because if I hadn't, I don't know where I'd be right now, to be honest. I don't know if I would have found the passion and the drive behind running a marketing and branding agency, which is what I do now. But there were a lot of different twists and turns in between, uh, launching a course and, you know, figuring out how the heck I could even get it off the ground. Like, how can I get in front of clients? Um, what kind of services am I going to offer? How do I price it? How do I get help? There's so many things that I stumbled upon when I hit that point, because when the pandemic hit, I first thought I was gonna be able to stay in New York, and I thought it was just gonna be a couple weeks maybe, because the whole world thought that, I think, and it wasn't. It was, never ending feeling like. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so in March, my dad calls me and he said, "Hey," and by the way, my dad has watched the movie Taken 5 times in theaters. So, this is his dream to save me. He calls me, "Blaire," and this is
Yeah.
March 2020. "Hey, Blaire, the numbers are escalating in New York. I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this. I think I'm gonna come get you." And I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'm organizing my apartment." Because, like, obviously, I got plenty of food. I'm okay. "Okay, are you sure? Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm fine." Calls me back. "Yeah, no, I'm picking you up. I'm gonna leave the house
Oh.
in about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna be there in 3.5 hours." So he, like, got off the phone and just drove from Maryland to New York to come get me, and, I was like, "Oh, shit." I gotta, like, pack. What do I pack? How long am I gonna be gone? I have no idea, and also backtrack, in February of 2020, I had like five jobs total. I literally was bartending at 2 restaurants. I picked up this new consulting gig. I was freelance writing, and I was, freelance styling. So I had, like, juggling a million jobs. Those all of them literally ended at that time except the consulting gig, and then my dad's, like, speeding up to New York to come get me.
Wow, that is like, and because that brought you to like what you're
Yeah,
doing
it
now,
did, and
right?
I'm so thankful that, like, I had all those jobs, right? But then when they all disappeared except the one, um, I was, like, so
Yeah.
thankful because I was like, "Oh my gosh, well, at least now I can build off of that," right? It's the one thing I should build off of and see where it goes, but it was a huge learning curve, like, to see where it would even go. I've never been a consultant at that point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's just like listening to your story, like you said, there's so many twists and turns, but like I feel like, and from what I've heard from clients and just people in my community, is when they're experiencing the twists and turns, they feel like, well, why can't I figure it out? Like, why doesn't anyone else have to experience this and all that? Which is a huge reason why I started this podcast. But like, did you ever have those feelings of doubt, or like, what got you through when you were, sharing a bed with a stranger?
Yeah,
Which is like not
it
funny, but just
sounds
saying it in a
so
sentence is
weird.
like,
I know, she's just like a amazing, nice human, right? Like, she offered that. I
I
know.
love that.
Um,
Well, shout
I
out to
know.
her. I hope she's out there
I know.
thriving.
I know, and there were some nights, to be honest, where she would, text me and be like, "Hey, like, my boyfriend's coming over. Is there any chance you could find a place to crash tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it's like 10 PM. I'm hosting at a restaurant. I don't have friends in New York yet. I'm brand new, and the friends I had, they're like acquaintances. It's not like we had become best friends. And so on a couple occasions I'm at this hostess stand, and this restaurant I worked at too had celebrities come in all the time. It's like double life, like you would never know. I was thinking to myself,
Yeah.
am I gonna have to crash at Penn Station tonight? Like, it was just like my fear, or I didn't know where to go. And luckily,
Yeah.
I'm thankful I never had to. I had to suck up my pride and text like an acquaintance, "Hey, can I crash on your couch tonight?" Which is like not something you want to do. But it's fine. I always had a roof over my head. I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for that, and I have great friendships out of it. But yeah, of course
Good.
I
Oh,
doubted myself all the time, like especially when I was couch surfing at that time, or when I took the leap into consulting. Even at the beginning stages of that, it was like, do people actually want these services? Like, is this beneficial to them?
yeah.
Because for me, it's so second nature to do marketing. And to me, I'm like, oh, I thought everybody knows how to do this, because I've had 2 businesses before where I am doing all the marketing, I'm doing all the sales, I'm doing all the things, all the hats. And so to turn it around and, I'm still doing that, but to realize other people don't know how to is kind of crazy to me. So, but
Yeah.
it's been a lot of refinement period, and like, how do I make this work? And when my dad picked
Mhm.
me up from the pandemic, I had to move in with my parents again, and I hadn't lived with them in over 10 years. And that's a hard transition when you are independent in New York City
Yep.
for over 10 years, and, doing all of that, and then it's like, "Cool, I'm back in high school, but I'm also starting this business right now while the world figures out what the heck is going on with this pandemic." So that was a really rough, rude
Yeah.
awakening for sure. I mean, I'm very thankful, like, I have the best parents ever, like, we have a great time together, but, um, it was a big kill it was a lot. It
It's
was
a
a lot of
lot.
life
It's a lot.
transitions going on.
So, how did you give yourself permission to pivot, right? Because you pivoted a few times. Like, how did you give yourself permission to do that? Did you always just know that, like, or do you have like this intuitive knowing of just like, okay, when this is done, it's time for me to move on? Like, how did you embrace that change, and how did you just like give yourself that permission?
Well, to me, I think when I was leaving the corporate job, I guess that is where you'd start with the major pivot is, I think I just realized, okay, it's in me. Like, I literally have this voice in my head that I need to start a business and redirect somehow, some way, and I will figure it out.
Mhm.
And I've been through the worst before, like where I've hit some rocky bottoms. I can always make I had this bartending job as a buffer. I was like, I can pay my bills with that. I'll be fine while I figure everything else out. That would be worth it to me. And so I think just knowing I had that backup definitely helped at the beginning. And then when I transitioned when the pandemic hit and I had to really get serious about my business and be like, okay, what direction do I want to go in? Um, it was a lot of trial and error. I think the permission part probably just comes from I have had 2 other businesses before, and they didn't I just realized, like, okay, if I'm putting all this, work into it and nothing's coming out of it money-wise, if it's not sustainable for long term money-wise, I have to figure out
Mhm.
how I can make it sustainable. So if that means I have to pivot,
Yeah.
that's fine. People change all the time. You'll never read any success book of any person who's made it, so to speak, um, that hasn't pivoted
Yeah.
in some way or had low points in some way. And I find that as something really reassuring. And I think that's why um, I love your podcast so much, is because it does reassure people you're going to hit those bottoms sometimes. And it's okay. Like, it's gonna be fine. You just have to have a
Yeah.
positive attitude, surround yourself with people who are cheering you on and building you up, and realize, like, it's not gonna be the end of the world. You just shift and make it work.
Yeah, we all bottom out. We all bottom out, and our bottom outs look different. Like every single person's looks different. And I was doing an interview earlier where the person said like, it's so easy to just sit there and compare to somebody else, but like our journeys are all different, and like their blessings don't necessarily mean that there are blessings. And so like, did you struggle during that time? Just kind of like, you must have really had to put your blinders on of being like, I'm going to figure this out, not really looking at what everyone else is doing, just so I can like stay in my lane and get this off the ground and like get this going. Is that something that
Oh,
you had to
yeah.
face?
My entire adulthood being in New York with all my friends, and to be transplanted from having a huge social life to 0 social life. And the world is like seems like it's catching on fire, and I gotta figure out this whole new business concept. It was a lot, and I definitely was, feeling really depressed about it for a while because I didn't know what I was like, "Where do I even go? Like, what's the point?" You know what I mean? But I'm very religious, and I was like, "You know what? God, I'm gonna look at this. God has a plan for me. I have to figure out, you know, I don't understand the timing. I never will, but I can at least
Mhm.
know that there's that hope there, that there is a reason why certain things have happened to me in my life for a reason, and I just have to be positive and move forward and work hard towards whatever I think is gonna be the next best step, because if you're just sitting there, well, then, yeah, everything's gonna crash around you, but at least if you work towards something that you're like, "This makes sense, I'm just gonna go for it," and you have to separate what everybody else is doing at that time, because then you're gonna have FOMO, you're gonna be,
Mhm.
what's the word? You're just gonna resentful about it, and what good is that gonna do for you and your growth? It's not gonna do anything but make you sad and in the same place that you are. So if you at least just put those blinders on and, like, move forward, it's gonna be better. So that's what I had to do, really, because it was really
Mhm.
a sad time. I was like, my friends are all out of the city. I mean, they still a lot of my friends, not all of them, but a lot of them did move out of the city, and they still are, because it's a weird place right now. So,
Yep.
it's a hard
Yeah,
realization that,
absolutely.
hey, like, you kinda have to start over somewhere new no matter what, and start over fresh no matter what. So for me, I'm like, well, um, it's given me over 2 years to really focus on this dang business. So but it's
Yeah,
been great,
there you
because
go.
honestly, if, the silver lining is that if I hadn't been removed from my social, surroundings, all my friends all the time, if I hadn't been removed from, working at that restaurant and bar and the side gigs, would I have been able to be where I am now to build up this business? Because it takes an army, even though you're one person, to build up a small
Mhm.
business. And so it's been to me, it's been a blessing over, even though it didn't seem like it at the time, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what is one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourself at the start of your
Ooh,
entrepreneurial
I
journey?
think something like, you know, you don't have to be perfect in everything you create. I think just go for it. Sometimes done is better than perfect. Just so you can get moving.
Yeah.
Like if you need everything to be perfect every single time, it's going to really delay your progress and money. And I definitely delayed the progress and money part of it because I was such a perfectionist about a lot of things. So I've had to really kick that to the curb. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm slacking and don't care about details because I definitely
Mhm.
still value that, but I just look at it differently. I also would recommend for new entrepreneurs to build up your community and ask ask to connect with people, ask people for advice. You will be so surprised at how many people that are complete strangers that want to help you out because they've been exactly where you are. And I find that to be some of the most powerful people that I've met as far as like powerful connections and friendships. And, they're very selfless about it. And I think that's so cool whenever you can meet a friend who's just that caring to help you out in the business world. And they exist because I was in Facebook groups that I asked people like for my first
Yeah.
proposal, hey, like, I don't even know what to put as rates. And two people, complete strangers, like, literally sat down, did math based on my experience and all these other things that they thought it would be, and it was so kind of them. It really, warmed my heart that they would do
Mhm.
that for a complete stranger. So I think those are a big thing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is huge. And your story is so it's so inspiring because you just like you leaned into your faith, right? You kept your faith. You just like built this trust with yourself of being like, I will figure this out. And I don't care who I'm gonna spoon to next to. Like I'm going to figure it out. And like that's it. Like I will do what I have to do to make a name for myself. And you've done that and you're doing that. And I think that that's so beautiful. And I really want to emphasize what you said about the community aspect because like your network is just as like I think, and I wish I knew this in the beginning, your network is
Mhm.
just as
Oh,
important as
yeah.
your leads are. Like just as and like be don't just expect to like have these people in your corner, like give to them as well, just like those people did in that Facebook group, because like it just goes such a long way. So if you have the ability to like definitely
Yeah.
just
I
help people
mean,
out.
it's
Oh.
I can't even tell you. It just is amazing how people, just like one person that you don't know reaching out and helping you, it goes such a long way whenever you are really
Mhm.
trying to build something from scratch. And, it's not
Mhm.
really normal to have maybe an immediate community of entrepreneur friends already. So if you have to step out and join a community like that, it's so invaluable. Definitely.
Absolutely. So, how can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you? How can they work with you? I'm going to put your Instagram and everything in the show notes, but where do you suggest people come find
Absolutely.
you
So
and
my
how can they work
website is
with you?
blairebrown.com. It's my name, very easy to remember. And basically, we are a marketing agency and we help brands with marketing, branding strategies, really anything to make your business beautiful in the digital world. And I also do consulting with entrepreneurs because I've built businesses before. I've made all the mistakes, and now I would like to help people so they don't make my mistakes. So I work on a consulting level as well. If you're starting a business or if you just need a little marketing TLC, I also have a podcast which Gabrielle is also going to be on so soon. It is called the Curate Your Success
Yes.
podcast. You can find me there on any streaming platform. And on social media, you can find me at Business by Blaire Brown.
Thank you so much, Blaire. Really, really appreciate
Thank you
you
for
opening
having
up and
me.
sharing your story with us. Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, I would be super appreciative if you left a review and a rating and shared this with a friend so that I can continue to bring you value every single week. I'll see you next time.